Hey, fellow film fans, England Teen here for Xtreme Movie Show, and we got to talk about this. So, a guy over at The Guardian wrote this article. It kind of blew up. Shrek at 20 is unfunny and overrated, low for blockbuster animation. And let's just get to it. Okay, so he starts out saying Shrek has an outhouse with a working toilet. Yes, that is a joke. It's not part of the film's cynical brand of irreverence that an ogre's latrine is supported by modern plumbing, and it's certainly not consistent with the hygiene of the swamp-dwelling beast who bathes in mud, brushes his teeth in slime, and boasts of killer weed rat stew. But after our lime green hero literally wipes his ass with a fairy tale ending, it was apparently decided that the film needed that emphatic flushing sound before Smash Mouth's single all-star kicked in and the introductory montage can commence. Yes, it was a joke. And yes, it also gives you a beat right before you go from him talking to the music. I'm absolutely sure there was a decision there. We need something to signal that door is going to slam open and All-Star will begin. Okay, so 20 years later, that flushing sound seems to signify the moment when blockbuster animation circled the drain, except for it didn't, did it? I mean, that whole line right there is just out to freaking lunch. I mean, in that same year, you have Monsters, Inc., which you could actually argue looks better than Shrek. And then following that, just based on Pixar alone, blockbusters, movies weren't circling the freaking drain just because they were animated. Shrek is a terrible movie, opinion. It's not funny. It looks awful. It would influence many unfunny, awful-looking computer animated comedies that copied its formula of glib self-reference and sickly sweet sentimentality. 3 of those terrible movies were sequels to Shrek, and 1 was a spinoff with a sequel in the works. The curse is eased, but not lifted. Now, you got to actually also think that DreamWorks was the company that came up with How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda. I would go on to say that as much as I praised Pixar in my last sentence, that this whole thing that you're saying, oh my gosh, DreamWorks is, no, sorry, dude. Now, look, I get it. I didn't care for Shrek 4. I thought Shrek 2 was actually better than the first one. And Shrek 3, it's passable. But I do have to say, at least the guy was right that we did get a lot of animation that was self-referential or much like Shrek referenced pop culture way too much, even in the Tigger movie, which I thought it did not belong. Alrighty, but the curse has not only eased, it's gone. Like, you're going to have good and bad movies in anything. This guy so far, I don't think he knows what he's talking about, or at least he can't find the words to say what he's just off base on this one. All right. So he continues. And yet Shrek was a sensation with critics and audiences in 2001 after flailing in its early efforts to keep up with Disney. The animation house, which its co-founder Jeffrey Katzenberg was credited with reviving, DreamWorks had finally hit pay dirt. Well, at least the animation department. DreamWorks had some hits before that. Let's see, even the stuffed shirts at the Cannes Film Festival, who usually separate a Hollywood summer fanfare from its official selections, brought it into the competition slate where it premiered alongside, look, David Lynch's hit and miss, so is John-Luc Godard. All of them are hit and miss. Good movies, bad movies, nobody's perfect. Let's see. It's hard to account for why Shrek hit the cultural moment as squarely as it did. No, it's not hard to at all. When Shrek hit, you got to think of it historically. When Shrek hit, we just had a decade of Disney renaissance. You had the big songs, you had the princesses, you had, well, Aladdin and Hercules, but you had the pageantry and almost the self-importance of the Disney Renaissance. And I like the Disney Renaissance. I don't think there's a movie in there I really don't like. But that's why it hit, because all of a sudden these things that we held sacred were being torn apart. It was a great movie for exactly its time. Now, you could argue, it's your opinion, obviously, whether or not you still find it funny, whether or not you still find it relevant. but it did have its place in history. It did have its moment in time. And for that, I don't think you can really argue. But he just goes on to say, he breaks it down. He's like, well, he kind of dismisses it and says, well, you know, other than, you know, people seem to enjoy it, or why it'll be celebrated 20th anniversary piece. Because it's the same way with a lot of our stuff. Have you watched Airplane? Look, I love Airplane. And when I first saw it, I laughed my ass off. But now, 45,000 views later, I could pretty much watch that movie without a single, but I've shown my kids and they laugh their asses off. And that's the same thing. Now you got these kids who saw it becoming parents, and they're going to share it with their kids or even their nieces or their nephews or something. But it's worth pointing out how comprehensively bad its legacy remains, opening up the floodgates for other major studios to pile celebrities into recording booths. That actually started with Robin Williams and Aladdin, sir. So don't blame that on Shrek. Feed them committee polished one-liners, put those lines in mouths of sassy CGI animals or humanish residents of the uncanny valley. Worse yet, and encourage the destructive know-it-all attitude toward the classics that made any earnest engagement with them seem like a waste of time. Really? So because of Shrek, you can't read a classic? That's on you, dude. Alrighty. Their replacement, chiefly a flatulent ogre voiced by Mike Myers, who deploys the same accent that carried him through the all things Scottish sketches on Saturday Night Live. Myers and Fat Bastard. Myers was only just past the peak of his popularity when he replaced fellow SNL alum Chris Farley as Shrek, still riding high off of 2 hit Austin Power movies and still powerful enough to get DreamWorks to shrug its shoulders over allowing him to redo the part in Scottish for years. And you know what? It fit. I can't hear, you know, I know you can find Chris Farley's version on the internet somewhere, but in all honesty, it just doesn't sound right. Shrek is Scottish. It worked. For years, Shrek seemed like a disaster in the making. Writers assigned to polish up the script likened it to the Gulag, but the conceptual hook of its fairy tale universe, combined with the buddy chemistry of Myers and Murphy as Donkey and Cameron Diaz as Fiona, and up for anything damsel in distress, was stronger than they could have realized. In fact, the roadmap for Shrek had already been drawn years earlier with The Princess Bride. Yeah, there's always something to build on, right? A fractured fairy tale that found the right balance between knowing gently absurdist plays on the storybook tradition and a sincere affirmation of their power. There is even a scene in Shrek that nods to the torture machines in the early film, with the evil Lord Farquaad working over the gingerbread man for information, but the balance in Shrek is off on both ends. There's an excessive anachronisms of buddy movie riffs from Myers and Murphy that have little relation to the backdrop and a woe is me soppiness to the love story between 2 lonely, misunderstood freaks. Nothing screams unearned gravitas like slipping in a cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. But the most curious element of Shrek is how uninterested it seems to be in the fairy tale universe it creates. In recent years, the studios have merged and brands have been further reinforced. We're seeing plenty of eagerness for companies to trot out their IP. Hello, Space Jam: New Legacy. Yeah, that's going to suck. But there is much greater promise in a film that's about fairy tale favorites under a threat from nursery rhymes to the Brother Grimm. Some of these creatures are assembled in mass detentions by Lord Farquaad, who exiled them to Shrek Swamp, and Princess Fiona's dilemma imprisoned in a dragon-guarded castle tower. Now, but once Shrek and Donkey cross the kingdom on a quest to bring Fiona to Farquaad, the storybook references are all but abandoned. Even when Robin Hood and his merry men appear in the woods, the film blows past that boring old mythos in order to pay homage to The Matrix and Riverdance. Well, here's the thing. You need to get to the story. I mean, it's one thing to go, hey, remember Pinocchio? Hey, remember Snow White? Dead Girl, off the table. Remember all of that kind of stuff. But eventually you have to find the narrative. And once you're in the narrative, if you continued to do what you did in the beginning of the movie, you would be breaking it up over and over and over again, and it would be just a huge mess, just a bunch of higgledy-piggledy. I mean, that's obvious. That's obvious, and this guy's a writer. As what's left is an all-ages film that somehow is more crude and juvenile in its appeal to adults than children. The grown-ups in the room could snicker knowingly at Farquaad's name and the repeated references to his penis size, while the kids are left with the fart jokes and the wanton diminishment of timeless characters and stories. Last year, the National Film Registries added Shrek to the Library of Congress, which seals its canonization, but it's remarkable how much of an early aughts relic it's become. An amber preserved monument to phenomena, Mike Myers, Smash Mouth, Michael Flatley, that hasn't stood the test of time. Even the film's referential style looks resolutely slow and unhip next to the whirring pop Cuisinarts of Lord and Miller's productions like the Lego Movie and Spider-Man Into the Universe, or even IP-heavy Disney fare like Wreck-It Ralph and its sequels. And Shrek didn't save DreamWorks from selling itself off a few years later. It didn't extend Michael Myers' career past hard expiration date, and Katzenberg went on to found QB. The entire enterprise is better left in the past. Once again, I would like to point out that DreamWorks is still going, and I will point out didn't they also have the Hotel Transylvania franchise, the Gru? What's that franchise with Gru and the Minions? Darn it, what was the Gru one? The where the Minions came from? My brain is right out the door on this one. But point being is that they've been popular. This guy's acting like Shrek came, Shrek went, and DreamWorks right down the freaking toilet. That is provably false. You can actually look around and you can say, hey, this guy is full of crap. He doesn't know what he's doing. So I don't know. I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. Talking about Shrek, yeah, I got to say I enjoyed it. I actually kind of want to watch it now because there are certain things that I probably would agree with him on. I don't think joking about Michael Flatley's nutsack bouncing up and down on the wind these days is going to have as much of an impact as it did back then when he was actually somebody people knew. So, but that's with any referential movie. He talks about the Lego Movie and Into the Spider-Verse, something which was built on the shoulders of Shrek. Yes, Shrek was the first. Things build in time, sometimes for the better, in this case, and sometimes for the worse, where if you look at Airplane, you realize this movie begat epic movie or date movie. You realize, holy crap, things have just gotten worse as far as that's concerned. But as far as this is concerned, it's Shrek was fun. Shrek was funny. Shrek did everything that guy said it did, and it was a good time to be had. Oh, and the movie's franchise is called Despicable Me. Yes, I hate it when my brain does that. But there you go, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Twiddles is obviously mad at this guy for not appreciating Shrek. Although he hates the scene where the bird blows up. You can understand that. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you haven't done it already. And if you don't mind helping out the channel, in the description below is a link to the Patreon, the Ko-Fi, the whole 9 yards. All righty. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that. To everyone, all of the fellow film fans, true believers out there, thank you very, very much for watching.